People sometimes ask, how do you measure the efficacy of your work? We at First Slice believe in the power of food. We believe that it is restorative and that it doesn't just nurture your body, but it also nurtures your soul. So although I was poking fun at Norman Rockwell, there is something powerful about food. Like, when a meal has been prepared for you in a loving and thoughtful way that takes your own personal proclivities and tastes into consideration. And you know that it's a different kind of experience when you drive through the fast food pickup window lane, or if you slap together a sandwich out of whatever you happen to find in the back of the fridge. And so people sometimes say, well, you do all this great feeding work, but how do you know? How do you measure it? How do you tell your supporters if it's working or not? If it's effective. And to those people, I say, you know what? We partner with other organizations to do our feeding through our outreach program. We've had dreams about doing it on our own, and we came to realize that that's overstretching our boundaries, right? We know how to make really great food and serve it. We don't know how to provide the social service sort of wraparound services that people need. We don't necessarily know how to go out and find the people who need to be fed. But we do know how to feed them, and I believe with my whole heart that it makes a difference. And sometimes, I have encounters like, the first night a youth came to the shelter, and he had this look in his eyes. So he would look at you, but he wasn't really there at the same time. So he knew to make direct eye contact, but even when you made direct eye contact, there was a part of him that was just not present. And he was kind of hanging out around the kitchen before dinner, as teens around the world do. And very tentatively he said, and is it true that after everyone has had some, that if there's enough, we can come back and have seconds? And I said, yes, it's true. You're right. Everyone has to get their plate filled first. But then I said, if there are leftovers, and we always have leftovers, you can come back and get some more. Okay, I want you to know that on his first night staying at the crib, I served this young man 5 pork chops. 5 times he came back and filled his plate. And I was like, where are you putting this food? I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yeah. By the end of the night, he was looking at me, but he was present. And his little belly was sticking out. And I said, but wait, you haven't had any pie. And he was like, oh, I don't think I have room for pie. And again, just last night, I make a practice of being there once a week on a regular basis. I've developed relationships with some of the youth. It's a fluctuating demographic all the time, but you've got your regulars who come through. And there was one young man who saw me across the counter in the kitchen. His face lit up, and he came around and he knocked on that kitchen door, and he wanted a hug. And he said, I asked how he was, and he said, oh, it has not been a good day. He said, I went down on the south side today to see my family. I hadn't been there in a while. And when I showed up, I found out that my sister is dead. And her funeral was today. And I was 4 hours late. Now, there is nothing you can say to a young person in the face of that. He is maybe 18, 19 years old. So I just took him in my arms and I gave him a big hug and I said, oh, baby, I am so sorry. And he pulled back and he said, so, is there any pie tonight? And I said, well, we don't have pie tonight, but we have chocolate chip cookies and they're hot out of the oven. And then we played every night, as he does every time he comes to dinner, because, I gave him 2 and he stood there and went. And I said, now you would do that no matter what, even if you had just not had the day from hell with your family. I was like, go, eat your cookies, come back later. So, that's what we do. We feed people and we invite people in our community to help us in the work. So when they buy our pie or when they drink our fancy coffees, when they hire us to cater their event, when they get their subscriber meals from us so their weeknights are maybe a little less crazy, every time they make a choice to come in and support our organization, they're supporting their own community. And in the same way, we invite them to come out and serve, volunteer, and sort of be on the front lines of what we do so that they can be reminded about how powerful it is to give the first slice to somebody who's used to just living on the crumbs.